G'day and welcome to Beyond Sobriety, a podcast where you'll hear real stories of recovery and resilience come to life. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, your host and fellow journeyer on the road to sobriety. As someone who has walked the path of addiction and found solace in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, I understand the challenges and triumphs that come with striving for sobriety. And it's with this understanding and empathy that we've created this podcast. Our purpose here at Beyond Sobriety is simple yet profound: to provide a platform where individuals can share their experience with alcoholism openly and authentically. Through candid conversation, personal narrative, and expert insights, we aim to inspire hope, foster understanding, and offer a beacon of light to those still navigating the shadows of addiction. We'd love for you to be a part of this growing community. If you find value in the stories that you hear today, please consider liking and leaving a comment and sharing this episode with somebody who might benefit from hearing it. Your support will help spread the message of hope and resilience to more people who need it. I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic, and this is Beyond Sobriety.
Hello, my name's Peter. I'm an alcoholic. I've been around for AA for some time. It's been sober for a few years now.
Oh, excellent. Why don't we start off by talking about the attitude towards alcohol in your family when you were a child growing up?
It wasn't really a big issue. It wasn't a big thing. I suspect my dad enjoyed a beer occasionally, but not a lot. I wasn't really conscious of the thing. It was a thing I wasn't allowed to have. But no, there wasn't drunkenness. There wasn't alcoholism in the family, as far as I'm aware. There wasn't any of those sorts of issues. It was there. I think later on, I think my parents got a bit more into enjoying wine and things like that. Sort of their taste changed and things like that. But there was never any real issue with alcohol.
So you didn't grow up watching your parents get drunk or anything like that? No?
Never.
So what was your first experience with alcohol?
I was allowed to have the froth off Dad's beer when I was 2 or 3 or something like that. But he wasn't. It was more of a weekend Sunday treat for him. So, I was allowed to do that. I was just aware that it was something that grown-ups did. It had that mystique about it being something forbidden, that's not for me. I did get into it. I discovered it early on, 14 or so. I didn't have the capacity to buy a lot. So
was that your first real, tastes of alcohol properly? Obviously as a child, the froth off the beer when you're a baby.
That's nothing.
Yeah, but so you said when you were 14, was that normal, what I would put, normal experimentation with your school friends or?
No, that was an incident when I was 14. Let's just say it was my first drink. It was a case where I was young. I was a very tall child. Mm-hmm. I was a cadet. And I had time on my hands waiting for a train, so I thought I'll take my chances and walk into the pub and buy a beer.
Okay.
I did.
And it worked?
It worked, yeah. No questions asked.
How was that first beer?
That was okay. It was the ensuing night that followed with the other cadets because they had cobbled together some money when I left. They were outside discussing who was going to go and buy a case for them.
And then suddenly you're the man.
That's right. I just earned myself a part share in a case.
There you go.
And there was a night there and that was okay. I enjoyed that. I really did.
How much did you end up drinking?
I don't know, but it was enough to get me home at 3 a.m. and then I was still on the dawn service for Anzac Day on the cenotaph the next morning. Describes my drinking. It's just off you go, and but you will do what you must do.
Yeah, that is so typical. Being from a defence background, often people would start drinking the night before Anzac Day, go through. Most people will be completely wasted at the dawn service and then the whole way through and have to crawl home sometime that night if they ever get there.
Yes.
So it's interesting, I'm talking about seasoned defence people. You're a 14-year-old in a cadet uniform.
The other thing that just dawned on me is that I got home at 3 a.m. There's no mobile phones or anything like that, so I just let myself in, went to bed and sort of, whatever the time was, I had to get up and Dad took me to the dawn service. So
was there any discussion that you were in trouble? No?
No.
Did they know?
Yes. It wasn't any real great drama, really.
Fair enough.
I think they knew I just did as I did. I was roaming the streets as a very young kid and doing things.
Look, 14 is quite young. I'm thinking about that now because I have a 14-year-old son and I'm there going, I hope he hasn't tried alcohol. I hope he has. First time you had the opportunity to drink, it was you went overboard. Is that fair to say?
I drank everything that was put in front of me, yes.
Would you say that's just due to being, I guess, a typical teenager with this opportunity? Or?
I'd have thought so. I grabbed the opportunity I had. and it felt great. Drinking for me wasn't really that much of a problem because I just took the opportunities. I wasn't driving anywhere, I wasn't doing anything, but when the opportunity arose, I grabbed it.
Fair enough. When was the next opportunity?
Oh, I don't know. Left home alone and stealing out of the grog or whatever.
So would you say that you had a problem from the word go?
I don't know because it didn't play on my mind. I didn't have that obsession to go find it. I knew it was really great. I knew it was a wonderful thing. It solved my problems. It made me feel good, made me feel better about myself. But I didn't obsess about it as being the solution to everything. So it was, if there's an opportunity, I'd take it.
So would you say your drinking was fairly typical of a normal teenager where it was on the weekends, at parties?
No, it went years and years and years. And I was reasonably responsible even through my teens, my early 20s. There wasn't very much. Look, I was playing taxi, so I didn't drink and drive. RBT was a new thing, so you didn't drink and drive.
Were you able to stop when you started drinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I guess I would define an alcoholic as someone who once they start, they struggle or they can't stop at all.
And that's where I ended up, yes.
So you go through high school, I guess being fairly typical or, even probably on the low side. You start your working life. How, like early 20s, what are you doing in your life at that point?
Working and studying.
Working and studying?
Yep.
And how was your drinking then?
It wasn't too bad. It was manageable. It was, maybe occasionally on the weekends or...
Would you say typical?
Well, I would say typical, yes. I was aware of other people that drank a hell of a lot more than me. Mm-hmm. And, I was aware there are other people that didn't drink at all, but I didn't see my drinking as anything out of the ordinary.
So how often, like say in your early 20s, would you say you drank once a week, once a month?
Once a week.
Once a week?
Yeah.
And was it to excess at that point or not yet?
Not really, no. It wasn't to excess.
Okay. So what happened?
I really went through life doing normal things, working, studying, getting qualified, getting a job, getting married, having kids, doing all sorts of things. And at some point in my late 30s, I just, I found myself drinking more and more and wanting that relief.
So you would say it's a gradual thing that snuck up on you?
It did. And look, there were many occasions when through those years, when if the opportunity was there, I would drink myself silly.
Yes.
I knew I couldn't go to Christmas parties because free alcohol and whatever. No, I just can't do that. So I'd stop doing that. It's like the opportunity's there and I just drink too much. And then I'd say, I'm not going to do that anymore.
I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
So rather than I'm going to go there and limit myself and control myself, that that's not going to happen once you're there. Yeah. It's about going, I'm not going to go there. So while you still have the presence of mind to fight it, you limit yourself before you...
Yeah, and I think really that the time came when I just, I'm going to go out for lunch and have a beer or three.
So this is your mid to late 30s, is that right?
Late 30s, yeah.
Late 30s? Would you say it's some kind of like midlife crisis or just what happened?
Whatever goes on in life. It's just, the problem is in me that whatever was going on at that time with work, marriage, kids, all sorts of things, I just felt the need to stop thinking about it, stop feeling and put it aside. And I knew alcohol was there as a solution and I just adopted it more often.
So what problem was alcohol solving for you?
The way I felt. The way I thought. It would slow down my gross overthinking, slow down the obsessing about so many different things in life. And more importantly, I just didn't have to feel anything anymore.
I used to describe it like I'd go home and disappear.
Yes.
So like I'll be there, but I'll be able to disappear from anything and everything that was causing me stress or strain or struggles or whatever.
And really I'd spent quite a few years after that, just turning up, doing what I had to do, fulfilling my obligations as best I could, and really making a mess of everything. But, the drinking just got worse and worse and worse. And I did not care anymore.
Were you a daily drinker?
Absolutely. In the end, yes, I was a daily drinker. I drank every day. And when I knew I had to stop, I knew I had to cut back, it became a daily challenge to see how long I could put it off. Would I start at lunchtime? Would I start at dinner time? Would I make it through the day without a drink? Or would I be guzzling wine before I walked into the office?
How long were you a daily drinker for?
Quite a few years, I don't know. It was all a bit of a blur.
That's what gets me. Sometimes, like when I first came to AA, I just assumed that everybody was a daily drinker. But I was very quickly, disavowed of that because not everybody was. And I guess in my head, I was there going, are you really an alcoholic if you can go a day without it? Because I couldn't. I think it was about a good year or so. The idea of going 24 hours without a drink was something that scared the living crap out of me.
And look, for me, even when I was trying to stop, if I could get a day or 2 days without drinking, I was pleased. So happy I'd have to celebrate in day 3 with a drink.
Because how many times did you try and stop?
I tried a lot. Consistently. I knew it was a problem. I knew I had to stop. I knew I just could not sustain this. And then there were just more and more crashes or rock bottoms or things went, and I couldn't stop.
How would you hide your drinking, or your
Absolutely, I had to hide it. It wasn't really, the extent of my drinking wasn't acceptable to my family. So they had no idea how much I was drinking for some time. But again, just turn up, do what you're supposed to do, and off you go.
How would you hide it? What would you do?
I drank very cheap. I drank in quiet moments where I had a few minutes to myself. I would guzzle something down in secret, or I would take a little bit longer to get home and guzzle something sitting in a car in a park before I get back to the house.
Would you have hiding spots around the house?
Sometimes, yeah. Some good and some not so good. Hiding spots in the car, hiding spots in the offices, hiding spots everywhere.
What was some of the fallout that would happen? I mean, like, I know that I do exactly the same thing, and about probably once a month I'll get busted. They'll find this or find that.
It's not so much I got busted every so often, because my family that I had, my wife and my kids, they like to drink too. I mean, and we all liked a glass of wine or something like that. And sometimes it was a case of I'd simply get home, I'd be half hammered already, get home and open a bottle of wine. Off we go. So, or I'd be pouring everyone a glass. It's just that I'd be guzzling 1 or 2 in the way extra. So hiding it wasn't so difficult. The crashes were really about big events. Losing a job, smashing a car, falling asleep in your food, embarrassing people. I'm generally a very quiet person, so I don't say a lot of dumb stuff. Occasionally I would embarrass people that way, but it wasn't difficult. There were a lot of really bad things happen. Look, I managed to avoid 2 drink driving charges. When I finally fessed up on the 3rd one after smashing a car, it was okay. I was in AA by that time and I still couldn't stop. By that stage, it was, okay, fine, I admit it. That's it. I'm done. I've finished this. I still didn't stop. It was just the admission that, yes, fine, I was drink driving. Stop pretending no or blaming something else or whatever. So I was learning something.
So would you consider some of those, I guess, major events your rock bottom? What was the realisation you came to? What was the event?
The thing that stopped me was realising that this is going to kill me slowly. It's not going to be a car accident. It's not going to be anything like that. I will die and I will be an unknown body somewhere in the bushes that someone will discover when it smells.
So that's where it was leading you to?
Yeah, that's where it would lead me. But without a job, a home, or anything else, I'd be, just somebody that scrapes up money and drinks.
It's interesting because that's how I would, before I started going to AA, I didn't consider myself an alcoholic, because the alcoholic people were the ones who live under the bridge in Parramatta, or the ones in the park, or the ones, out of brown paper bags, which, I'll be honest, I probably drank about 1 million bottles out of a brown paper bag. It's just I wasn't in a park when I was, that's what I considered. These people have a problem. I don't have a problem because I've got a job, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got a car, I've got a mortgage, and I'm doing reasonably well. Were you in the same category, or?
No, look, all of those things were there. Everyone got fed. Everyone got educated. Everyone went to school. All the bills got paid. And my wife at the time managed that. I just kept the job as best I could, making money.
What was one of the most extreme lengths you went to get a drink?
I don't know. Paying for a $4 bottle of wine with a handful of silver change.
I bet that guy behind the counter loved you.
They said, no, it's fine. We get that all the time. Okay, I'm clearly in the right bottle shop then, aren't I? Yeah, that sort of thing. It's like extreme lengths.
I mean, I had alcohol once delivered to the house next door when I was in lockdown after travelling interstate, because there was no way I could do 24 hours in my in-laws' house.
I remember walking home one day. I'd bought I had some stuff that I'd bought, and I had hiding places in the neighbour's hedge.
Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
couldn't walk home with it, so I'd stash it in the neighbour's hedge.
No, that's fair. I used to hide it underneath my in-laws' house. And then I realised when I had to leave, I thought I've got to get these out. And so I just threw them over the back fence because it backed onto a road. And I was there. And when I got back, the council had done a big grass cut. And I thought, I wonder how many bottles they went over. But no, there was a few in their hedge as well, which I figured I could deny because it was, it was at the front of their house. Anyone could put that there. So what would you say is your rock bottom?
I don't really want to think about a rock because I know there's always a trapdoor.
Yeah.
There's no particular event that I think could not be worse. I mean, I haven't gone to jail. I haven't murdered anyone as far as I'm aware. I haven't killed anyone. But very conscious that I could always be back there.
Yeah.
So there's been lots of bottom. None of them stopped me drinking. The thing that did stop me and really got me to reach out and say, I can't do this on my own was that knowledge that I'm going to die slowly and horribly and I don't want to live that life to get there. And I just can't I do not have it in me to stop that.
Well, what I found after doing a number of these interviews is that everybody that's now sober has come to that realization at one point that it's not necessarily an event, it's a state of mind. It's a realization that through the fog and through the madness of drinking that they've gone, I cannot do this anymore. There's that statement that you have to give yourself. And while you're still, I guess, working and you're still able to do that, it kind of prolongs you coming to that realization because you keep on fooling yourself, keep on lying to yourself, going, no, I'm okay, I'm all right, I can stop, I can do this, I can still manage. People don't know.
That's right, I can manage this, I can manage this, I can manage this.
Yeah.
And the only thing I was managing to do was get myself drunk every day.
Which is basically every day that I woke up, that was my only goal.
Yeah.
Who do you think was most affected by your drinking? Obviously not including you.
Aside from myself, I think wife and kids, obviously, but they were quite affected by that.
When you're on the verge of getting sober, what were some of your fears?
How do I cope with this without alcohol? How do I live life without, the horror of actually having to feel the madness and the insanity and the horror show inside me? Just how do I face that every day?
Did you try anything before you tried AA?
They gave you medications and all sorts of things. I drank through the whole lot.
Yeah.
I didn't try any other program. And I had 2 goes at AA. I came in at some point. I went out and drank again for a while. In the end, I came back and I just stuck with it and just kept coming, even though I couldn't stop drinking and I lied about it. Just went on and on and on, but I just stuck with it.
How long did it take you to stop drinking? So from your first visit, so you said you went once and then you left and then you came back?
Yeah, and I honestly don't know.
All right, so what about the second time when you started coming and kept on drinking? Still don't know?
Honestly don't know. I really don't know.
It was that much of a blur, huh?
It was.
Fair enough. Because I think it took me about 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, more than a year.
More than a year?
For me.
So I got one up on you there.
No, absolutely.
At least there's
good on you.
Oh, well, you got to take them where you can get them, I reckon.
Absolutely, yep.
What was your first impressions of AA?
It was very easy to go back the second time because it was the only place I felt accepted. I felt I wasn't being judged. I was a human being who just wanted to get well, who had a problem. No one ever really just hammered me with, you must do this, you must do that. No, it's a program you've got to accept for yourself. That's the thing I found, is that these people were happy, they were doing well, they were sober, and regardless of all the rubbish I talk, excuses and whatever, and I carry on and whatever, it's continued to accept me as I was. No one told me to get out.
It's a big thing. It took me about probably 1.5 to 2 years to fully open up within AA. I probably shouldn't be surprised at this because the second I walked in, it was the very same. It was, you're accepted. It's people in the rooms have done far worse than whatever you could have imagined. But you always think that you're the worst one there.
But I think there's an acceptance that anyone who walks in that door has a reason to be there.
Yeah.
That's the acceptance.
Hi everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. This podcast is all about sharing real stories of resilience, recovery, and hope. Stories that remind us that we're not alone in this journey. If you'd like to support this work and help us reach more people, there are a few simple ways you can make a difference. Take a moment to like this episode, leave a comment, or share it with someone who you think might benefit from hearing it, whether it's a friend, family member, or somebody in your recovery community. Your support could touch the lives and inspire someone in their road to sobriety. Your stories are important. They remind us that we are not alone and help us all stay sober. What we're doing here creates a space where people can share their experiences, feel understood, and find inspiration to keep moving forward. By supporting the show, you're helping to amplify those voices and ensure that more people who need to find this message can. If you'd like to share your story and be interviewed, please email me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Every journey is unique, and your experience could be exactly what someone needs to hear to find hope, strength, or inspiration. This podcast thrives on real stories from real people, and your voice has the power to make a difference in somebody's life. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to connect and discuss how your story can be a part of Beyond Sobriety. Thank you for your support. Together we can continue to make a difference. Now, let's get back to the episode. Tell me about the last time that you attempted to drink. And how did you overcome it?
That's fairly current. I set myself up recently, just a bit of a horror show, events in life and work and all sorts of things. And I almost took myself out at a bottle shop, bottle of wine in hand, driving out. I saw another member wave.
So you got very close. What did you do with the wine?
I put it in the bin. I just thought, I can't do that. Okay. But later on in the night, I know I'll go and have a gamble instead. Because that was part of the issue as well. And no, there's another member standing beside me and said, no, you can't do this. You know, I should be spending a bit more time with that member because he was drunk at the time.
Yeah.
Someone valued my sobriety more than he valued his own.
It's a daily struggle.
And it is.
And I think what some people don't realise is that, I heard somebody else say this, and they said the reason why people with addiction come together is because it's like that flock mentality. We're all going to have low points where we are tempted to drink, but we're never going to have that together.
That's right.
So if we can stay a part of that, when I'm low, I can then tap into other people who aren't. And then when they're low, they can tap into me if I'm not. It's through that. One sheep by itself doesn't have a chance. But in a flock, you just might make it.
And that's the interesting thing is that twice in one day, and both times it was another member that I knew who just showed their face, and that's not coincidence. And I've heard the expression that coincidence is just God's way of remaining anonymous.
Yeah.
But it's something you need to bear in mind. It's okay that I'm here doing what I'm doing, and no, this is not the life I have anymore. And it's not going to be.
One of the things I found interesting was somebody said this, and I've never done it before, is that what she does with her sponsor is they go, okay, let's play the drink out. You want to have a drink? Talk me through it. What's going to happen after that drink? What's going to happen, later on that night? What's going to happen the next day? What's going to happen this? Like, let's do a mental exercise and see where that's going to lead you. And then you kind of think, do I want to get the drink? Because the drink is going to lead me here to this point, and we don't think about that point. I guess that's our alcoholic brain. It's just we want that instant gratification. We want to disappear quickly. We want to, forget about our lives for a while.
That's exactly right. And I think living one day at a time, I think is quite a reasonable thing for alcoholics to do, because that's certainly how I lived when I was drinking. It was one moment at a time I'm living one day, as you said, you wake up in the morning, okay, you're plotting out, what have I got to do today? What's on the agenda? What's the boom, boom, boom? When can I manage to start drinking? Where, when, how? What have I got to hide? What have I got to turn up to? And how do I manage the day around a drink?
And it's like I mean, I would get to the point where I'd manage when do I start drinking. So I know for the first few hours I won't be noticeably drunk. I'll still be able to function. I'll still be able to work. I'll still be able to have this meeting or have this thing, because then I can have that extra bit that's going to tip me over the edge and send me into that oblivion that's what I want.
That's right. That's right.
Do you remember your last drink? What was that like?
Look, it was between Christmas and New Year. I was working those days, and it was, I don't really remember the day of drinking. I do know that I was not driving. I was on public transport. I didn't have a car or a license at the time. Pretty messed up, but whatever, because it was that period of time. Work was fairly slow, so I was able to drink a lot during the day, and I wasn't living at home. I was living with my father at the time, and had lots of time on the train and came and went as I pleased. Sending me off to live with my father didn't really help my drinking at all. It just gave me time to drink more. It actually got worse. So I don't know how much I drank the day before. I really don't know. I just know that in the morning when I woke up and I knew I was already late for work again, that I'd missed a train and I was shaking, which was rare, and I realised I just can't do this. It wasn't so much the drinking because it was hidden. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't a party thing. I don't understand the party people.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Really don't. I'm not a social.
You were just an isolation drinker?
Absolutely.
It was never a function or never this. Or I suppose if it's there, I used to get
look, the function was just an excuse to get free alcohol.
Yes.
So, beside that, I wasn't a social.
It's never a social drinker. Yeah, because you hear that term, I'm a social drinker. I drink socially, like with friends and stuff.
Oh, good luck to you. That's not me.
So I guess with me, and because I don't know a better way to ask this question, with me when I stopped drinking, I would get 1 or 2 days, and then I'd drink again for maybe 3 or 4. Then I'd get another 2 or 3 days, and eventually those gaps of not drinking got longer and longer until eventually it stopped.
Yes.
Were you like that, or
yes? Eventually, that's what happened. That was the particular day where I stopped. I didn't go back.
So that was it. That was your final one. Yeah. What's one of your high points in sobriety?
I don't really have those. I don't know what to say. I mean, I went home and back to my wife and family thinking to rebuild, repair, make amends and do all those sorts of things. And I'm not there anymore. Mm-hmm. After a few years of sobriety, that just wasn't working. Didn't work. So, I feel better. I'm starting to see the promises. It's part of my psychology. I just don't look forward to things. I don't know, as I've often shared lately, I don't know how to live. And so high points, well, what's that mean? I don't know. I like seeing people get sober and get well.
I'll put something to you. Perhaps maybe because you struggle to see the high points is one of the reasons why the other day or other week you were twice in one day in a situation where you could have, because you didn't say how long you've been sober, but you said it's been a while.
It's been a while.
To get yourself back down to that day one and risk it all, because we all know what could happen if we all, you, me, and everybody else out there picks up another drink. Perhaps it's because you don't dwell on the positives, or you don't know how to dwell on those positives and appreciate it, is why you found yourself back there. I found myself considering that a lot recently, because there's been a lot of positive things in my life lately, especially over the last year or two. And look, full disclosure for everybody, we know each other quite well, and I could probably list a whole heap of positive things I see, but this isn't me telling your story. This is you telling your story.
I know. Look, I can see a lot of positive. I have struggled with the concept of God. I've struggled with the idea that, for me, God is a judgmental, vengeful God. And I really found the other day, I bought a lottery ticket and I thought, even if I won, I'd still feel I'm about to be struck by lightning. Really, that's very debilitating.
I could imagine, yeah.
This is how I think. And so the problem is, behind the alcohol is a pretty serious problem.
Look, I can really relate to that. There was a period of my life where I remember saying to somebody that I saw as like a bit of a counsellor and a confidant. I kind of just said, look, I kind of feel that if it's 50-50, it's not going to go my way. If there's a chance that it won't work for me. Yep. I said, it's just, that's my experience. And they're like, oh man, you can't feel that way. You got to be more positive. I was like, man, you don't know my life. I guess I've made a conscious effort to really start challenging those things. And my wife and I are currently going through a fairly hefty personal life change. And so I took her by the hand the other day and I walked around my house, the inside, the outside, and I pointed out to her everything we have. And I can honestly say I never had any of those things as a child, yet I saw my parents as like, the king and queen of our family. Like they're the ultimate idea of what success is and happiness and contentment. And I pointed out to her everything we have. We've got 2 new cars. We've got a 5-bedroom house. We've got 3 living areas, a cinema room. We've got great kids. We're in private schools. And I had to point out to her saying, look, even though one aspect, admittedly it's a big aspect, is going, it doesn't take away from the fact that, we are, by all accounts, got a lot to be grateful for. And I'm not going to sit there and say we're successful because everyone's yardstick of success is very different, but we have a lot to be grateful for. And I think it's when you stop seeing those things.
I know I have a great deal to be grateful for. And what I know is that I feel there are people in my life today who actually love me, care for me, look after me, and want the best for me, and are always there for me. I find it so hard to accept and believe and to trust that that is the case.
Yeah.
And that's probably very hurtful for some of those people to hear. But it's a real obstacle.
The way someone put it to me was, there's a lot of people that are for what you're for. And because of that, they're walking in the same direction as you and they're in the same proximity as you. And what we as a society do, or as people, as humans do, is we think that means that they're for us, but they're not. Because when that one thing that you're for and what they're for changes, and then suddenly you're walking on a different path, you can see the people who are for you rather than for what you're for. Hopefully that's not too convoluted to make sense.
I really do.
And sometimes you really know who your true friends are. I mean, I got to a point once in my life where I said to somebody, I'm going to treat you the same way you treat me. I said, and for some reason, it's a problem to you. I said, so, how do you think I've been feeling this time? And I said, the issue is that I don't really care if you treat me this way because I've gotten numb to it. Like, you're not going to invite me around your house in front of you, invite other people. I don't care. It's up to you. It's your house. But, not really sure where I was going with that one.
All good.
What do you regret the most about your drinking?
That I didn't have the presence of mind for all those years to see myself and my behaviour and take control, seek help, or to change it. I feel like it's a lot of time wasted, a lot of life wasted. There are things I did or said that were unforgivable. So, the alcohol was God, controlled my life. And that's not reality. It's a liquid in a bottle. And I let that thing that sits there in a bottle control my life. And that's not a good thing. It's a lot of waste.
It's funny how something that can't move, can't walk, can't talk has got so much power over us, eh?
I know. But it can, as soon as you put it in your body, it can move around and walk and talk and do all sorts of dumb things.
How have you negotiated making amends with people?
I've attempted that as best I can. Changed a lot of behaviours. Not a lot of good to say about that.
What role did the 12 steps play in your ongoing sobriety?
They're very fundamental because it's through those steps that I really had to have a look at my behaviour and what goes into my thinking around that and really get into what I actually believe. What are those things that drive my behaviour, even though I know it's not a good thing? I just keep doing things that aren't going to benefit me or anyone else. Really have a good look at myself. What's going on there? It helps me see that this relationship with God is not this constant need to justify or judge myself against the rules. It's a case of a relationship. And, there is all this talk about a good and loving God, and this is all a Christian tradition, of course, but I couldn't believe it because I didn't experience that. It was always, you're a child of God, therefore you must behave accordingly. So, it's got me to reshape my thinking. It's got me to reshape the way I look at myself and my life and what I do, and got really into the nitty-gritty of what is behind all that, what is underneath it all. What are those self-defeating things that just keep coming up?
Are your friends and family aware that you're an alcoholic?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't hide it.
Did you have like a coming out moment where you told people, or were they like, yeah, you idiot, we've known this for ages? Or
There's a little bit of that. I don't really hide it. Even my employers know.
Yeah.
So, they know I don't drink, things like that, and they know I struggle with various things, but that's all right. I don't make a big deal of it.
have you experienced any stigma surrounding alcoholism? And like after you told someone, they treated you different?
Well, to be honest, I guess that's true because the only real friends I have these days are all in AA.
Well, there's a good old saying, water finds its level.
That's right.
And some of the best people I know are in the program.
That's right.
I wouldn't count that as a negative either. I would say that that's something that's really good. I asked this question before, but I'm going to ask it again in a different way, just to see if I get a different response.
Yeah.
Looking back on your journey so far, what are you most proud of your accomplishment of being sobriety?
Don't ask me about pride. Pride. Look, I
Not
can't,
in the negative sense.
I can't be proud of anything.
Okay.
For myself, I have nothing to be proud of. On my own strength, what did I do? I got drunk every day.
Okay.
It's only by the grace of God that I'm sitting here breathing.
But surely that's not, all right. Let me change the word pride to grateful.
Grateful?
What are you most grateful about anything that, say, you have now that you didn't have back then?
I'm grateful that I have a space. You're sitting in my space right now.
Oh, sorry. I mean,
great. It's my space.
I'll get back 1.5 metres.
You'll be fine. Don't worry. But I've got a place to myself.
Yep.
It's a wonderful place. I have people in my life. I have a partner today really does care for me. And, this place is full of things I never imagined.
Yep.
And I have better relationships. I have better friendships. Well, I'm sitting here talking to you like this.
Yep.
It's a wonderful thing to be honest and realistic about our lives. I'm grateful for all those things. I'm grateful that I can today manage my own affairs, that I can be accountable when I really do make a mess of things, and that when I do, I can sort it out. And the people I'm dealing with will accept that we sort things out. That wasn't my life before. And I have a great deal to be grateful for. But again, it's not really, I don't see it as my doing.
Well, look, even if it's not your doing, if you don't count that as an accomplishment, if you say, look, I don't have anything of myself, but it's still something that you can enjoy.
Yeah, it is.
And draw pleasure out of.
It is.
Which I think is a good thing. What advice would you have for anybody that's suffering from addiction like alcohol?
Look, it's just a matter of being prepared to look at yourself, look at what you're doing, and just keep coming back, keep working at it. Shut up and listen sometimes. That on one hand, it's all about you getting to know you and why you do the things you do, what's driving you. And the solution is to get out of yourself and see that someone else can benefit from your experience, and see that realistically it's like there is life after death. No matter how bad you've got, life just gets better if you let it. Something grow out of it. It's the best growth comes in a rich soil, and that richness comes from the mess, comes from the experience of the nightmare you've lived in.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. The best growth comes from the soil. I like that. Why don't you close us off with a serenity prayer?
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for joining us today on Beyond Sobriety. Just before we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a gentle reminder. If you happen to recognise anyone who shared their story on this podcast, I urge you to respect their anonymity and privacy. Let's create a safe space where individuals can feel empowered to share their experience without fear of judgment or disclosure. And if you found today's episode helpful or inspiring, I encourage you to share Beyond Sobriety with somebody who might benefit from it. Together we can spread awareness, support and hope to those still struggling with alcohol addiction. Remember, your feedback is invaluable to us. If you have any thoughts, suggestions or stories you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at beyondsobrietyaa@gmail.com. Thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, stay strong, stay sober, and remember, you're not alone in this journey. I'm Michael, and I'm an alcoholic.